Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Gabriel Gollaz Valenzuela really gets out of jail, in my opinion. He wins a unanimous decision over a 7-3-3 fighter by the name of Manuel Medina. And I knew nothing about Mr. Medina coming into this fight. Now, as far as Valenzuela is concerned, yeah, I'd seen him fight many times before. He's got 30, coming in, he had 30 wins, 17 KOs, not 14 KOs, 17 KOs, 4 defeats, 2 by stoppage. He was last seen being stopped in 8 by Subriel Mateus, and that was earlier this year. I think it was in March. He also lost a unanimous 12-round decision about 3 years ago to Montana Love. And then he had a couple of back-to-back defeats early on in his career. 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, he lost to William Zepeda, was one of them that he lost a 6-round decision to. Very early on in Zepeda's career and his career. But look, okay, he's 30 years old now. He's got that gatekeeper vibe about him. But you'd think sticking him in with a 7-3-3 opponent would be, get him a win. He's a good, honest Mexican fighter, Valenzuela. We're talking super lightweights, light welterweights if you prefer. Like I say, he's 30, so he's as good as he's going to get. He's in his prime. But Manuel Medina, I mean, let's put it this way. He is so unknown that when I looked at his record on BoxRec before the fight, he hasn't even got a little picture, a little portrait showing, who he is. And according to the commentators, this guy, he only took up boxing 5 years ago, and I think he runs some sort of boxing class or something, they were saying. But if you look at his career, it's been, 7 wins, 5 KOs, so he has a little bit of a punch output, a little bit of meat on his punches. 3 defeats, 1 by stoppage, which was in the 6th and final round a couple of years ago against another fighter I hadn't heard of, and 3 draws. So he always gives good value for money. But you would not expect him to give someone of Valenzuela's experience any real problems. He's only 24, Medina. This was an all-Mexican affair. And to start with, the first 3 rounds, maybe even 4 rounds, this was a 10-rounder, by the way, you're thinking, okay, Valenzuela is craftier, probably got a higher ring IQ, certainly more experience. He was choosing his punches better, letting his hands go, not as much as he should have done. That was noticeable. But he was, controlling Medina. And then Medina started to creep into it, as is often the case. I mean, we've had a few fights this weekend. Caleb Plant against Resendez was one in which Plant was upset. That it can happen. If your eyes are not on the prize, it can happen. I mean, Murajan Akhmadaliyev, he was a bit pedestrian in his win this weekend as well. That was on the same card as this. And sure enough, Valenzuela allowed Medina to sort of creep back into the fight. And Medina was beginning by about the 5th, to outwork Valenzuela by sheer attrition. Just get in close, let your hands go, have the final say. There was nothing particularly scientific about what he was doing. Valenzuela looked like he had far more tools in his box, far more skills, but he wasn't using them, and it did not look as if he was taking this fight as seriously as he should have done. That is to say, it looked like he was he'd taken him lightly, quite simply. And I suppose you could say, why wouldn't he? Bloke with a 7-3-3 record, 6 years younger than me. I've got everything on paper to my advantage. But fights, as they say, are not won on paper. And what's the other cliche? Records are for DJs. And so it proved with this fight. Because make no mistake about it, although this was a unanimous decision for Valenzuela, I thought Medina edged it. I thought he won it. I think I had it 96, 94. The cleaner work, again, was coming from Valenzuela, which I suppose was what the judges were looking at. But, talent takes you so far, but you've got to get your work done. And I really thought that Medina was just outworking Valenzuela. It was that simple. It was, his work was not as slick. It was not as cultured, it wasn't as well schooled. But sometimes you get in there, and if you want it more, you can win the rounds. And I was giving him rounds. Now, the commentators, Gabe Rosado in particular, were the same. They were saying, oh, Medina's winning this fight. And when I see, a unanimous decision that opposes what I saw, I think, was I listening to the commentary too much? Was I being swayed by the commentary? Because that can happen subconsciously sometimes. But looking back at the fight, it's on DAZN, I watched it back. No, I think Medina edged it. I think Valenzuela was winning rounds on skill, on punch placement and technique. But Medina was just busier. And he outworked him, and he out-hustled him. That's the word, hustle. He out-hustled Valenzuela in more rounds. So if this had been a draw, I'd have thought, you've got out of jail, Mr. Senor Valenzuela. But to give him a unanimous decision, I don't agree with it. I really don't agree with it. Neither guy was hurt particularly in this fight. But let's put it this way, Valenzuela will not be looking for a rematch with this guy. I'll go back to being a gatekeeper, fighting the really good guys, because it's actually more money and it's easier. Because if he lost this and slipped to 30-5 or whatever it was, if he lost to a 7-3-3 guy, it's not a good look, is it? And you won't get the bigger fights. But maybe he's the type of guy who needs that challenge to get the motivation going. I don't know. But anyway, it's it is what it is. Valenzuela moves on. Poor old Mr. Medina, Senor Medina, slips back again. No one's ever given him anything. He's 24, so he's got time on his side if he wants to carry on. But he should have a win on his record, in my opinion, here, a good win. And he hasn't got it. So did you see this fight? What did you think? Let me know what you think. Comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button. Do all that good stuff. And spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Always appreciate your time and your support. Always. Without question. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a review of the Galejos Khalil Co rematch. So look out for that. Until then, I'll catch you later. Bye for now.